a whole lot more in a whole lot of other places. And I shared just a little bit outside briefly with Pastor Yolanda as we were pre-preaching our way in. And we shared a little bit. I said, I see us as what I've come to call the third Pentecost. And the reason I see it that way is because there was one in an upper room in a little musty apartment upstairs in Jerusalem several years ago. There was another in 1906 on Azusa Street in what used to be a horse stable. And it was a blind in one eye black preacher named William Joseph Seymour who learned the world and way of spirit in the hallway and under the teaching of a preacher who would not let him come into the room because he was black. But people went in the hallway to hear what he had to say after the teaching was over. And so they dispatched him to California, to the wastelands of Southern California in 1906. And Azusa Street happened, and just about every spirit movement that was born out of Azusa Street. And I say that because there was also a coming together of metaphysical people. Yep, during that same time, but we couldn't worship together. Because we couldn't cross the lines of exceptionalism and elitism and racism, sexism, and fragile patriarchy. Same spirit. And with all of that spirit and all of that power, we still couldn't cross those lines. And in fact, when the Azusa meeting was over, people went in directions and accord primarily to their money, to their race, their gender, and consequently, we had all of these churches talking about God and Jesus who could not connect to one another because we could not cross those lines. But God has given us another opportunity. When I look at a room like this, I really realize that God is giving us another opportunity. I'd like to consider this place an upper room. Where the Spirit of God and good is palpable and tangible and real and manifesting. And that we can cross those lines, not only of gender and race and elitism and all of that, but we can also cross the lines that divide us around human sexuality. Come on, talk to me. Gender expression. Come on, sexual orientation. We can cross those lines. We can really have Pentecost. Because when they were with one accord, in one place, with one mind and one purpose, there came a sound from heaven as the rushing of a mighty wind, and they were all filled with spirit simultaneously. And they began to talk about God in good in languages that everyone in the room could understand. That is Pentecost. And I declare that I've experienced it tangibly and palpably in this room today. Come on, let's celebrate the God of our God. I say at home, hallelujah! God bless you. I want to say again, Pastor Yolanda, my precious, beloved sister, and Pastor Greg, and all of the great gifts and skills and ministry that they have. What a wonderful team. What a wonderful gift. What a wonderful blessing. So I just want to take a moment and share and leave something with you about what I believe is the locus of our power. The power of this circle. What is the underpinning? What is the underpinning of this third Pentecost? And I want to read a little bit from the 14th chapter of Acts. And I say all the time about Acts, is Acts became Acts because they acted. We are writing the second book of Acts right now with our lives. One day people will write about us. We'll be Acts 2. Because we're acting. Because there isn't anything that really is a precedent for what is happening now. God is doing something, good is doing something that perhaps didn't pre-exist this time, but God can do whatever God wants to do. And the God in you can receive and see and realize and actualize things that have not yet been done. I believe that with my whole heart. The book of Acts, it says in the 14th chapter, there was a man in Lystra who could not walk. He sat there, he was crippled from the day of his birth, and he heard Paul talking. And Paul, looking at him in the eyes, saw that he was ripe for God's work and he was ready to believe. So he said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Sir, up on your feet." And the man was up in a flash. He jumped up and he walked around as if he'd been walking all of his life. And the crowd that saw what Paul's prayer had done went wild. "These men are gods," they said, in their Lycaonian or their Greek dialect. "The gods have come, these men are gods." They called Barnabas Zeus and they called Paul Hermes. The priest of the local Zeus shrine developed or made a parade happen with bulls and banners and people lined up right up to the gates ready for a ritual of sacrifice of the bulls. But when Barnabas and Paul finally realized what was going on, they stopped them. They waved their hands and they interrupted the parade and they said, "What are you doing? We're not gods, we're human just like you." This is what he said. "And we're here to bring you a message and to encourage you to embrace in you the living God. We don't make gods, God makes us. And all of this, sky, earth, sea, and everything that is in them, we make or we co-create together. In the generations before us," he said, "God allowed all nations to seek the God of their understanding. For God made good creation, poured rain, gave bumper crops, and when your bellies were full and your hearts were happy, there was evidence of good beyond your doing." Talking fast and hard like this, he prevented them from carrying out the animal sacrifices they were about to do to honor them as gods. But then some religious leaders visited from Antioch. Antioch was headquarters, just so that you know. From Antioch in Iconium. They caught up with Paul and Barnabas and they turned this fickle crowd against them. The crowd beat Paul unconscious, dragged him outside of the town, left him on the road for dead. But his colleagues gathered around him. He came to, he got up, and he went back into the town where he was beaten the next day with Barnabas, proclaiming the message and establishing a strong core of disciples. They retraced their steps to Lystra and Iconium. Essentially, they went, not only where they preached, but they went to headquarters. And they walked into headquarters, like Aretha Franklin said. They got up walking like a natural man. And it gave muscle to the hearts and minds of the disciples and urged them, and they began to believe now and not quit, making it clear to them that though it wouldn't be easy, God was going to see them through to victory. Let me share just a principle or two with you. First thing I want to lift up here in this telling of this experience is that when the Lycaonians saw the miracles that Paul did, they thought he was a god. with him, or that he and God were not one. But they saw him as a God for whom sacrifices needed to be made and people needed to lay down and worship. But then the deeply religious people came and persuaded the people that Paul was an impostor. And the same people that wanted to worship him wanted to stone him. I need you to get that for a minute. Yeah. Because we're from one extreme to the other. See, this has been my experience in religious life. I just need you to hear what I'm saying. The same people that will declare that there's nothing better than you since the creation of sliced bread. Come on, get me now. In a week. If the right people talk to them, if you understand what I'm saying, or perhaps the wrong people talk to them, the same people will flip because they didn't think about you right the first time. When they made something of you that somehow diminished who they were. And people who will do that can flip overnight when another God come along, if you understand what I'm saying. So this week they want to buy you a plane. Come on with me now. And this week they want to hit you in the head. It is amazing to me how fickle we can be when our affections are not first delivered to loving ourselves. You can hear me say that. And this is the problem with fame. How uncertain it is. Why were the people who were incensed against Paul? What was the issue? Not because he had done anything to injure them. He had done nothing illegal. These leaders were incensed. The people were against him. They were saying that he was seditious and that he was dangerous and not fit to be harbored. And last week they loved him. These leaders were so angry with the message of good news and freedom that they profaned the move of God among them because they didn't want God and good. They wanted a hero to worship. Interesting, isn't it? They irritated the crowd to such a degree that a mob rose and they stoned Paul, not by judicial sentence, not with cause, but with gang violence. They threw stones at him. They dragged him out of the city as one not fit to live in the city. Put him in a cart, listen to this, to bury him, supposing that he had been dead. They were so incensed that they failed to drag him outside of the city to stone him as their law required. They weren't supposed to stone you in the city. If you got stoned, they were supposed to stone you out of the city, but they got so mad and so frustrated at the teachings of the religious leaders that told him that Paul was an apostate, listen to me, that they killed him outside of their own law. And those that on the other day would have treated these apostles as gods, now treat them worse than criminals. What is my message to you? Today they were sacrificed to, tomorrow they were sacrificed. Such is the fickleness of what often happens in the history and in the herstory of religion. I say it as a practitioner of faith, but I critique it. Somebody said, well, what about the Bible? I said, I love the Bible. I don't worship it. I interpret it. And I critique it. Because I've learned something. Popular breath turns like the wind. Populist religion. Listen to me. I'm 63 years old. I go way back. Some of you all don't know A.A. Allen and R.W. Shamrock. Some of you all don't know the mission work of Billy Graham. Come on now. You don't go back. You know his son, bless his heart. But you don't know him. You don't know how people laid down their lives and sold their property. Listen to me. To follow these leaders. They don't know the power of religion and how it can grab people's lives such that they have religion and absolutely no relationship with themselves, with the divine, or with their neighbor. And here, once they worship him, next they want to stone him, and they say he shall be stoned and thrown out of the city. But here is what I want to leave with you. Somehow or other, they did think he was dead. It begs the question whether he was or not. I'm not altogether sure. But they seem to have been professional stoners. Professional stoners seem to know when they have stoned you to death. So they thought that he was dead. And supposing him to be dead, because they didn't leave off stoning until they had the fullest evidence that he was dead, the crowd walked away from him thinking that he was dead. But something happened. Something miraculously happened. And I want to say this in the spirit for those of you who are in this house who may have experienced this in the spirit. When certain circumstances occurred in your life, and the circumstances were of such that you were absolutely left for dead. Now, I'm not sure what your testimony is, but I have a series of things I could share with you. I am a walking, breathing miracle. And I know I'm in the room with a bunch of walking, breathing miracles. That had it been left at times up to me, I would not still be here. Something shifted. Something changed. And what do when you at first cannot find the strength in yourself? Now you know now that you have it. But there was a day when you did not know that you had it. And somebody had to roll up on you and tell you who you are and whose you are. Something very powerful happened to Paul. He was in a cart, either dead or dying. Whatever the case may be, it was basically over for him. People had written him off. They said, we did that thing. We took care of him. We put him out of business. Has anybody ever done that to you? We did that thing. We took care of her. We put her out of business. She'll never rise up from this. It's like the people that when Lazarus was in the tomb, they said, well, that's it. That's all. Lazarus not only dead, but he stinks. He's dead and stinking. Did you hear what I said? He's dead and putrefying. He's dead beyond rising. He's dead and stinking. And all the Spirit in Jesus did was say, just show me where you laid it. Just show me where you laid him. I'm not ever going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'll just show me where you laid him. Now, everybody get back, get back. Show me where you laid him. Because I named him and he'll remember when I call him. There is no voice like the voice of Spirit. And the Spirit called out Lazarus. And he got up from the thing that he was not supposed to get up from. What am I saying to you? Scripture says, and I love this passage, that when they saw him in the cart, left for dead, a group of the disciples got around him in a circle. Hallelujah. I know something about this. Hallelujah. I saw it this morning. I saw it when the spirit of those that were living a life of freedom are not keeping it for themselves, but they are sending it out as a message to every one of us that is bound. Hallelujah. By pain and by struggle and by yesterday and sometimes today. Some of the things that are happening that keep us from actualizing and seeing who we really are and seeing the God in us. I tell you, he was in a cart, and I imagine him laying in a cart, barely breathing, if breathing at all. And all the text says is that a circle of the disciples got around him. And he got up. That's what it says. That's a whole sermon. He got up and he went back. That's the thing right there. Who does this? Except people who know who they are. Not good enough to be a witness just to the man or woman in the mirror. But you have to go back. Some of us need to go back to a crack house. Some of us need to show up at Mount Pisgah Missionary Baptist Church. Choir day or something. Just show up. Walk slow all the way to the front. Everybody say, what is it? So this is God's doing. And it's marvelous. Marvelous stuff. He left the city after his stoning, but he came back to continue to be a testimony. There's healing in the circle. This is an upper room, but imagine it being our being in a circle with one another. There's power in the circle. It seems that there were some at Lystra that became his disciples. And it's amazing between making gods of them, but then becoming disciples to their freedom. Oh, listen. Mature believers who came to know the power of prayer and kinship. They knew God's faithful servants. Hallelujah. And they knew that God had brought this man from death. But they also knew that there was something else besides the real religious folk. Come on now. Yes. And this whole business of denying the presence of God in God. Yes. We have to reframe it. Yes. We have to reframe it, which means we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's right. But we have to distinguish what is the baby and what is the bathwater. Because some of the bathwater got to go. But there's a baby in there too somewhere that we hold on to that gives us life. The power of the circle. Why? Because we have to do what the wind of justice is calling us to do. Yes. The third Pentecost is requiring us that I'm not to just have this for ourselves. Yes. I talk to a lot of my new thought brothers and sisters, and I tell you why God is bringing us together. Because everything that they say to me is by intention. I speak from intention. I speak from intention. I say, well, I got that. It's coming through to me. To my Pentecostal mind. From intention. But there's also a point at which you're going to have to go in the attic and get your Birkenstocks. And get in the street and get you some signs. Put yourself in harm's way. You have to go back to the places that sought to kill you and speak truth to power. Not just intend truth to power, but speak truth to power. It's a combination here of intention. The sister said to me, she said, the young people got caught in a cave in the Philippines. She said, and I prayed, she said, all day. And I heard that they were all saved. I said, yes. All of those boys were saved from that underground watery grave. But there were some men who put some oxygen tanks, one of which died in the process, who went through those narrow spaces into that flooded cavern, and child by child, they pulled them out and brought them to safety so that they could breathe. I said that's called prayer and intention and action. Did you hear me? Prayer and intention and action. And I said, what will you pray for? I said, that's good. Now what will you do? Paul went back to the dangerous places. And he preached and he taught and he taught and he preached and he put himself back in harm's way, back with his body, back in harm's way. Then he went all the way to headquarters where the naysayers came from and preached there. Oh, hear what I'm saying. He went back. We got to go back. Because we left some people. And we've got to go, oh, y'all don't hear me. Hear me prophetically, and I'm going to stop. We've got to go back to some of the places that we left, and we're enjoying our freedom from those places. But this joy I have, listen to me. The world didn't give it to me. Neither did the church. This joy I have came from the one, hallelujah, that has lived and will live forever and ever. Part of me that is eternal, that was with God before I came here on assignment. This joy I have, the world didn't give it to me. And the world can't take it. So what are you afraid of? I want you to hear me. While we are creating churches, private social club, I'm almost through. Enjoying our time together. There are people at the border suffering. There are children without food. I intend for them to have it, but I also have to take it. There are people in jail. There are people who are broken. There are people whose lives are destroyed. There are seniors who are without the company of friends and family. And so my question is, now that we got up and the circle has healed us, what is Spirit challenging us with to do in this hour? Where is the do? Is anybody here? What a great group of justice warriors in this house. What a great group of good voices in this house. But we have a situation in Washington, D.C. I said we have a situation. Let me say it again. We have a situation. And Spirit is waiting for some Spirit warriors who will speak truth to power. It's not yours to have alone. It is yours, hallelujah, to pack it up and deliver it in the places where it is needed. God bless you.
Yes. PIA, prayer, intention, action. Yes. We know that when we operate in that knowing, it should lead to inspired action. Prayer is good. Prayer is necessary.
And it's not
It's not enough. It's time to get out of the room. Yes. I was sharing with someone yesterday talking about our 4 T's class, and I think for me, one of the most powerful things are the prayer circles that we create in that class. Prayer circles that last for years and years and years out of that intention. The power of the circle. We know that power, and we watch lives being changed week in and week out. Thank you, Bishop Thunder. So in this moment, it is time for us to prepare for giving. I ask our ushers to get prepared. If there's anyone, if you need an envelope or you need a pen, please just raise your hand. Our ushers are happy to serve you. Thank you to those who have already given online. If you haven't or would like to, you should see the website on your fan. You can scroll down to the giving section. And if you would like to text to give, the number is 347-744-9500. We appreciate each and every one of you. We appreciate your gifts. I was thinking about something this morning. I was thinking about spending money. As many of you know, my daughter just graduated from high school. And senior year is expensive. And now we're getting ready to move into college, which is awesome. But of course, we spend money. Anybody, show of hands, anybody that hasn't spent money in the last few days? Right? We all do. And we know that that's a part of life. And we spend money on different things, different experiences. Of course, it may be for our general financial needs, for where we're going to live and what we're going to eat. But many times those things are fleeting. We spend the money on the experience, but we don't hold on to that experience. And one of the things I love about giving is that we get to actually see the power of our giving over and over and over again. Now, just by a show of hands, I'm looking at so many faces. If your life has been changed, if your life has been altered, if your life has been blessed by the mission and vision of Celebration Spiritual Center, just a show of hands. So see, when you circulate your money here, you get to see each and every week. And this is just the people in the space. Pastor Yolanda and I can receive messages on a weekly basis from all over the globe, from people whose lives are being impacted, being changed, being altered in powerful and miraculous ways because of your giving. So when you give today, give knowing that you will constantly see the benefit of your giving, of your tithing, of your spending, if you will. And so when we recognize that and we know that we operate in this beautiful law of circulation, we know that as we give, we will always receive. Yes, yes? And so we affirm all the money that I use, returns to me multiplied, in a never-ending cycle, of increase, and enjoyment. I call our ushers forward. Let's take a very joyous offering.
We are extending ourselves, opening ourselves to action, to a life that is inspired by you, Mother, Father, God. We stand in the knowingness that this circle, this time together, has been blessed and will continue to bless. Thank you, Mother, Father, God, for those that are here and for the ways in which you will show up in our lives this week and the ways in which we will be you in the world this week. Thank you, Mother, Father, God, for this unfolding. And as we release these words back into the knowing, I proclaim that this day is blessed. Yes. I let this day be all that it was inspired to be through me, as me, and all around me. Yes. Thank you, Mother, Father, God. I release these words into the mind that proclaimed us all perfect, whole, and complete. And together we say, amen. Amen. Ashe. Ashe. So it is.
Let's affirm together. I give my love, more love comes rushing back to me. I give my time, more time available to me. I give my treasure, and doors are opening for me. take your seats, everyone. Before we close,
a couple of things I want to do. We always stand in gratitude for our volunteers, those people that have impacted our lives. And I'm going to get through this PG without crying. One of our sisters, our glorious expressions of the divine, is moving to Atlanta. Greta, will you come forward? Her in all her beauty right now. This is just an outward expression of what she really is. She has been on our divine design team since days one, since she's been here. And all the beauty that you see and all the beauty that you've experienced at CSC, every time I have an idea, I say, Greta, and she said, oh, yes, I see that. She has never ever said no. She has always been standing in the yes, and so I am so grateful for you. I'm grateful for the life that you are. I'm grateful for all that you have brought to this community. In terms of not just the beauty that we see, but what we know is possible throughout our lives. Yes? Yes. May this journey, this next step, this unfolding, be the most miraculous unfolding, the most easy and effortless unfolding. We love you. One last thing. It is Pride, and we're so happy. We've celebrated Pride since before the doors opened. We knew that it would be part of who we were, our message, and of unconditional love. And so we are celebrating Pride today. We celebrate it. Each of you should have received this sticker that was designed specifically for today. Please wear it. Please take this mission, this idea, this love out into the community, wherever you are. Celebrate the pride, the knowingness that this connection that we all are has nothing to do with gender, sexual orientation. It has to do with the power that is God within all of us. And so we get to reflect that wherever we are today. So make sure you take your sticker, place it over your heart, and wear it out and be this love, this God in action.
I invite everybody to stand. What a good Sunday. What a good Sunday. And so in this moment, if there's anyone, if you have a prayer request or if there's something on your heart and mind that maybe something has come up through the service or something has come up in the message, don't take it home with you. Leave your worries at the door.
Definitely. Leave them in the back of the room.
Visit the altar. Leave your worries, write it down, let it go. And our prayer champions will pray over it all week, holding the highest knowing, holding the highest intention, knowing that all is well and all will be well, that nothing but good can come from this. Don't take it home with you. Leave your worries at the door.
And when you do, when you write it down, when you let it go, when you open up the space for love and God to occupy, when you allow this God to be the voice that you hear and the steps that you take, what do we say at CSC every Sunday?
All things are possible. magnificent I